Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining us. We have Mike Yoder from Tipalti, right? Did I say
Yes,
that right?
you got it right.
Okay, Tipalti. And we're here today to talk about payments and global payment distribution. And so I'm going to go over a few things about Data 360 and kind of what we're up to. And then we'll hand it over to Mike. And so let's start here with kind of the overview of Data 360. I know we have a long standing relationship with a lot of you, but we really want to go into how we can uh, sort of the overview of the company and how we can really help you kind of in our present day form. So, um, let's see here, share my screen. All right, I think we're there. And so let's just kind of get into a little bit about Data 360. We'll get into our unofficial guide to Google, and then we'll talk through the workflow of the marketplace, and we'll hand it over to Mike. So, couple things. One is people kind of ask, what is it that we do? And we're a AI, machine learning, and big data company, but we focus on data. And the reason is because AI and machine learning don't work well unless there's a complete set of data. And so that's why we're called Data 360. It's important to note that if you don't have a team that understands data well, AI and machine learning won't benefit you. So why is AI important, right? Um, it's important for a lot of things, but one of the biggest things we found is that people just really build terrible websites and they build Facebook pages, terrible Facebook pages, and email campaigns and mobile apps, and even companies, right? And so and most of that is revolving around bad communication. And so bad communication in operations means that people don't get, or companies don't get the right employees, the right customers, the right partners, the right investors, and there's just this giant guessing game globally about whether someone is or is not a good match. And the core value of what Data 360 offers is we really solve the problem of that guessing game between marketing, sales, HR, and operations with AI, machine learning, and big data, and our partnerships with Google and Amazon. So, most of the time you put out a really pretty website, it's a beautiful design, but it's a terrible marketing tool and a terrible sales tool. So we have two core products or services that we offer through technology, and it's our solutions are Smart CRM and Smart Search. Um, Pretty much what you can know about the AI, machine learning, and big data part is one is everything we do is super fast. So typically we save anywhere from 6 months to a year, sometimes years of work in 90 days or less. We also do some pretty miraculous things like turning Facebook into a sales opportunity. Most people don't know their Facebook is actually typically not constructed properly for the algorithm to make the sales close. I'm sure you're familiar with that, Mike. Um, and then we actually are able to convert 70 to 98% of contacts into leads via email, which is extremely high. We also are able to save 90% of expenses on paid advertising. And we've also done things like we've created $50,000 in leads in a few weeks for some small companies. And we've also raised crowdfunding campaigns in 30 days in very odd circumstances. So all of that, the benefit of that is because of the AI machine learning focus we have. We're like digital Switzerland. We integrate with every software package, not just the ones listed below, but every single software package. So we integrate typically with Facebook, with Skype, with Intercom, with Infusionsoft, with Facebook Messenger, and G Suite, all of Google's products. Um, and we have a lot of different other integrations we do with enterprise software as well. So if you have any questions about that, you can just email support and we can help you with that. We've worked with a lot of different companies and cities and foundations. So of course, We have our partnership with Google. We're also partners with Amazon. We've had a historical relationship with Microsoft Education, and we're expanding our relationships with Microsoft now. Um, we also have had relationships with the ACLU, with Drug Policy Alliance, with the City and County of Los Angeles through Mayor Garcetti's office. And we work for a number of foundations, including the MasterCard Foundation and the Knight Foundation, two fairly well known. And then we've also worked with thousands of small, medium businesses, agencies, and consultancies. So we've had about 50,000 users on our business network, on our messaging platform that get um, educational messages from us and a lot of other products and services. Um, Kind of the bottom line of like, how does this all work, right? Because AI and machine learning is such a mystery. It works because of science. And so um, what we can say about that is, we have a lot of fancy words, but really what it comes down to is we have people. Those people get enhanced by big data. They get stored in kind of a virtual Rolodex, which is on our site. And once they're enhanced, and then they're sort of scored and prioritized by AI and machine learning, and that virtual Rolodex gets sent to you in whatever software or directly into a database. Um, that information is what saves you the money. Is because you have information that would normally take you years, months or years to learn about your contacts, about your potential employees, about pretty much anybody you're contacting. So that all the metadata that comes out of working with us is the data that you would normally have to do by hand by talking to people many, many times. And sometimes you could never get the data by talking to them. And so that really enhances things. And so some of the more innovative things that have happened in our company is, people have used it for policy propagation. They've used it, like the ACLU used our methodology to do a check on how counties are spending money for human and social services. Um, and we've had a lot of other things. People also want to know, are their programs effective and that sort of thing. So we have a big, wide array of things that we can do with our model and our services. Uh, we're typically appending data. We're modeling what are called transactional models. So what all these activities have in common is they're transactional models. And so we work to map the transactional model into software and populate those models and that software with the appropriate data for the company to reach their goals. And typically we get added on to cloud applications. So the existing cloud 1.0 applications. So everything from Facebook to Oracle to SAP to Microsoft to Google to Amazon, all of the HR softwares, marketing softwares out there, all the operational systems, product management systems, workflows, messaging systems. So we can pretty much be added into anything. We're extremely profitable. We have 90% gross profits on every sale. We have no long-term debt. We have no institutional investors. And we have great partnerships with Google and Amazon. So Google funds some of our R&D infrastructure and operational costs, and Amazon keeps our costs very, very low. So uh, that's kind of topped off with 20 additional data providers that provide us with infrastructure and user data inventory that basically limit our need to be vulnerable by funding. So we're here to stay. We run it like a restaurant.
Great.
So we're very lean, and we also have amazing partners all over the world that help us make our business successful. Um, we're part of what's called the cognitive computer market. It's actually a market that most businesses are just now even contemplating how to enter. So we're very ahead of the curve, which is awesome. And so what cognitive computing really means is it's basically a combination of AI, machine learning, and data. Also could include blockchain or IoT or some of those other things. But what it means is the computer actually has the ability either to think or to help you think. And so that market is expected to be $53.73 billion by 2026. We're aiming to take a big chunk of that soon. And We've had a lot of growth. We actually use our own system on ourselves. So you can see we've had quite a bit of growth. We started in 2 years ago with 55 users. We expect by the end of this year, we'll have 100,000 users, and December of 2019, 3 million users. So we use our own data, we do our machine learning, and that's why our network is getting exponentially bigger and more profitable, more effective, is because we're using the AI, machine learning, big data on ourselves. We drink our own Kool-Aid, so to speak. Our users get education and training through what's called Data U, which is now partnering with Google Education. We have partnerships and funding that we parlay through Data 360 Labs, which is part of a few different Google products and Google services, including G Suite and Google for Startups and Google Cloud. And we also have just new clients that just use our services for marketing, sales, and HR campaigns, including our new enterprise services, which include things like cybersecurity and educational innovation and things like that. So pretty much anything involving people, we can be very effective in helping do some of the preliminary activities in making a project successful or operation successful or growing a community. Um, our serviceable, obtainable market is in the millions right now. And we focus on 6 main markets. We have education and government implementation in the top 10 MSAs that we're starting next year. We have a big integration that we're launching in December and January with G Suite. We also have our enterprise data streams with Amazon Web Services, Data U, which is already up and running, Shopify, which is already up and running with Google Shopping and Google Commerce, and Kickstarter, which are selling products and services online. So dealing with customer acquisition. And so that's kind of our diverse offering. Our team has a lot of experience. As you can see, we're superstars and ninjas and superheroes. But we've been through a lot of different companies with Computer Associates and Dell and Macy's and Walmart and Digital Domain and Intel and MicroStrategy. So many different companies on our system in our I say that have formed our system and our way of thinking about business. And so that's where we started to find all the commonalities, and we really got to develop a really robust platform. And so that's it for that presentation. Um, and then the other thing we like to do is we will actually, I'll take you right now through Data 360's kind of unofficial guide to Google. Since Google's driving a lot of our business and opportunity, we just want to give them a little bit of airtime just so you can kind of understand where we are. So we developed this just because we found that so many people, of course, everybody's familiar with Google, but not everybody actually knows what they do. And so it gets a little bit confusing. So sometimes we just like to take time to kind of illuminate you through, right? So um, the first part of Google that we deal with is called the infrastructure layer. And what it is a it's Google Cloud, and Google data centers and Google Fiber. So kind of how that works is Google Fiber and the data centers are what powers all that super fast uh, searching and all the services, software services that they offer. And Google Cloud is exposing some of the internal software that makes Google work to businesses so that they can utilize that. And so that's our partnership with Google is primarily around Google Cloud and implementing Google Cloud products and services. The platform layer, which sits on the cloud, is reflective of a lot of different platforms, but primarily we focus on 3, which are G Suite, Google Education, and Google VR. And so that's where a lot of our people actually come on and get to know more about what we offer. We have an app layer, And the app layer is most of what people know about Google. And so we have Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Docs, Dreammaker, which is a VR system, Gmail, Hangouts, Jamboard, Orbitera, Google Classroom, Google Cloud ML, Google Chrome. So, for example, I'm spending time this coming week with Google in San Francisco around Google Chrome and all the Google Chrome developments, and a lot of other companies are there also. So there are many, many different implementations. And so what's great is we're kind of tasked with coming up with creative ways to utilize that infrastructure. And then there's kind of the initiative layer, which is marketing sales. So we're part of two different initiatives, one called Google Cloud Next, and the other is Google I/O. And so Google Cloud Next is the cloud team and how to best use the Google Cloud, and Google I/O is the development side of Google, where engineers learn how to use the products better and learn about new product initiatives. And then the last part is the research layer. So there are lots of research things that Google does, but these are the main four. These are the ones that we've had some contact with or been adjacent to. So Google Brain does a bunch of research around AI, machine learning in particular, and a number of other things, but really focuses on deep learning. So the combination of all these technologies in order to form a cognitive computing effort. Google Moonshot, which is now known as X Company, is where they take on the biggest challenges on Earth and come up with things. It's the Moonshot projects. Um, Google Labs is really now merged into all these things we know and love today. So Google Labs is actually still an ideation unit of Google, but it's mostly all the things we see right now in 2018 is part was all part of Google Labs. And then the last one is Sidewalk Labs, which is more about smart cities and smart city implementation. And so those, if you Google Sidewalk Labs, you can learn all about how Google is working with cities to transform how they operate. Oh, and then there's one more layer, the funding layer, the most important one. Uh, so there's Google, the company, there's Alphabet, the parent company, but there are also some funding layers within the Google ecosystem, which are Google Ventures, which is our venture capital arm, and Google Government and Public Affairs, which deals with nonprofits and social and wellness issues. And both of those kind of combine together to work with Google Education. And so Google Education is kind of the offshoot of those two things put together along with the main operations of Google. And so that's my speech about Google, and it's been approved. You can see that on the other videos. The Googlers approve of that speech. Um,
Very good.
because yeah, it disambiguates some things. Um, and then the last part is just kind of go over where we segue into Mike in Tipalti. I'm gonna get it right on the first time. Soon.
Calling it Chipotle.
Tipalti, yes. Is looking at how the marketplace with Google, Google Commerce, and different products and services work together with subscriptions and payments. So, in the traditional model of e-commerce, you just kind of have two layers. You have a product, and you have the customer buying the product through the website. In a cloud-based environment, you actually have a lot more flexibility and a lot more information that you can gather that makes the system a lot smarter and makes it more effective globally. And so, what this marketplace does is it really is great at collecting money for cloud-based infrastructure and services, and notifying people who do services online how to sell to the public in a way that's not just kind of talking to people, right? So we want to supplement that with some effectiveness and some distribution so you can make more money. And so Mike's side actually is the other part of the equation, which is about once you've collected the money, how do you compensate all the people that have helped you make the money, right? So
Yes.
Yes. So I'm gonna actually stop my screen share and hand it over to Mike.
Perfect, thank you. Do that. Able to see my screen all right?
Yes.
All right, I'm getting all these notifications. Well, thanks, Marie. My name's Mike Yoder. I'm the sales director with Tipalti, and I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about who we are as a company, and then any questions you might have, I'd be happy to talk a little bit about that. Basically, Tipalti is an accounts payable payment automation solution, and what we try to bring to our customers is efficiency, the ability to scale, and at the same time be in compliance with all the government rules and regulations. Once again, my name's Mike Yoder, sales director, and if you have any questions, in the end, I'll provide my contact information if you need to get a hold of me. But talk a little bit about, oops, go back a slide as I put too many buttons. This is what Tipalti brings to an organization, and I call this the Tipalti wheel. And I look at it as both, we provide payments to be able to pay your payees, your vendors, your suppliers, whatever you want to call them, and we provide the accounts payable side along with it. So we do everything starting at the top part of the wheel. We do what's called the supplier or payee management, and that's the onboarding of these payees or suppliers. That's collecting their tax information, and guiding them through, if they're an international supplier, which tax documentation that they need to collect as well. We then vet and verify banking information and various payment information through our system. And then we're very proactive if information is missing to the payee or supplier as to what's missing, so that they make sure that they're paid on time, as most people do want to be paid on time and don't want to not get paid. So we're proactive, and it is white labeled, so it is branded depending on how you want to set it up with your company's logos and so forth like that. So it is a trusted, white labeled solution. The big thing I know here in the States is the tax compliance, and making sure we are a licensed money transmitter in the 50 states. And that we provide, tax compliance for both the W-8s and the W-9s. It is a digitized form. And we talk about the importance of that when we talk about when you, as an organization, need to print out the 1099s or the 1040S reporting. So that's all collected up front for your payees and suppliers. Does anyone have any questions about that side of things? And also on the supplier side of the supplier side of things is that at any time a vendor or payee can come in and check on the status of their payments, whether it's been processed, whether it's upcoming. All that information can be shared out to your payee or vendor. We also handle invoice processing, and this can be the traditional, what I call invoice processing, from a mailed in invoice and scanned into the system to automated via electronic invoices. We can read these into the system. We use our OCR technology with machine learning to basically set up a invoice for payment. We also deal with a lot of advertisers and publishings, marketing affiliates, and so forth like that, so that we can take payment instructions as to what needs to be paid to a particular advertiser or publisher or whoever needs to be paid through the system as well to set up payments. These invoices, these invoices or payments, once they are into the system, there is an approval process or approval workflow that then, it can be multi-level, single level. If everything looks great, it is then set up for payment. So that's pretty much what I call the invoice processing, which is I call the traditional, as well as if you have a performance management system that is sharing data that needs to be paid. The global remittance part of Tipalti is the ability to pay your payees or vendors in 190 countries and 120 currencies. So we are a global remittance, and then we can offer various payment methods to your suppliers or vendors. If they want to be paid via PayPal, if they want to be paid via wire, check. We even have still people want to be paid in paper check. We do all that for you as well. And so that's the easy part of Tipalti is your vendor or payee gets to, when they onboard themselves, they get to choose how the types of payments that they do want to be paid in, and then we provide that to you with those different types of payments. The other area that we handle, and I don't know whether this will be of any value to, is we offer what's called early payments. Some of our customers, affiliate networks, advertising networks, their payment terms to their advertisers and publishers could be 60 and 90 days. What we offer is the ability to do what's called an early payment, and where we can actually pay your vendors or payees immediately. We send out an offer, and an example would be, say, for instance, we're going to pay them $1,000. We can send them out an offer that says, hey, if you want to be paid now, we'll pay you $970. That $30 will then be revenue shared back to you. What Tipalti is doing behind the scenes is we're floating that money for you with our banking partners, and then you don't have to fund the Tipalti payment system until 60 or 90 days, whatever your payment terms are. So it allows you to use that capital for whatever you need to within your business organization. But it is a feature that is part of Tipalti, and we have, with our customer base, we have about a 40% adoption rate, and we're saving, many of our customers are driving revenue from just early payments. There's significant amount of revenue. We have one customer that's driving $1 million in revenue just in processing early payments. So that's a feature that's available of the Tipalti solution, and you can decide which payees or vendors can get that as well. And then finally, last thing, for any organization, you need to be able to see your reporting and reconciliation. We have instant reconciliation, so you know exactly where you stand as an organization, accounts payable wise or payment processing wise. And then we do all of your 1099 and 1042S prep reporting, and any of that needs to be sent out to your suppliers or vendors and the government information. So that's pretty much what Tipalti brings to the table. It's multi-entity. I think it's enterprise class accounts payable solution, payment automation solution, and working with Marie, we can tie into any systems out there. And so once again, I talk about the efficiency, scalability, and compliance. Tipalti is a Hebrew word meaning we took care of it. We have, what I always like to brag is we have a great customer satisfaction at 98%. We're one of the few software companies that I will say, I've worked for a number through the years, where we deliver on what we promise, and we take that very seriously. And if you talk to any of our customers, which I'll show you a short list on the next slide, we have great customer satisfaction, and I think that's very important for us. We process billions of dollars in payments with millions of suppliers, and so we have huge scale as far as payment processing and the rates that we charge for the transaction fees. And then we are a regulated financial institution and money transmitter. So we're regulated just like a bank, so that for your security. And we do, during your payment processing and during your transactions, we do all the OFAC screening, so that we are screening your various payees to find those so-called money launderers, and we make you aware if you do have vendors that are on the list from the U.S. government, whether or not they are can be paid or not. So we're doing all that behind the scene for you as well. These are some of the customers that are running Tipalti. And we have a mixture of both digital, non-digital, and small, medium, and large scale companies. We work with a lot of startup companies and a lot of medium-sized business and some larger businesses as well. A lot of these have grown companies that were very small companies and have grown, and we're bringing on numerous customers daily. And it's a lot of startup companies that are growing and really need to automate their payment automations. And so And basically what Tipalti brings to the table is efficiency. We think we can really help you reduce time on your accounts payable side of things, the ability to scale and grow. And what's really important these days is the compliance is really to protect you from your business risk, tax fraud, and regulatory controls. I think that's a key for Tipalti. So that was my kind of short PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, is there any questions?
So, Mike, in terms of setup, some people are wonder how the setup works. Can you speak a little bit to how easy it is to get set up?
It's real simple. I mean, there's basically all we need is there's an order form, which you basically assign an agreement. It's typically there's a platform fee. Tipalti basically charges is basically a monthly platform, a low monthly platform fee, and then transactions cost. Since we're processing billions of dollars in transactions, we're very competitive with if you dealt with a bank in the past, so we're very competitive with fees and so forth like that. It is you are assigned once you basically sign the order form. There is a KYC, which is kind of a know your customer. It's basically like filling out a bank for a bank account. We basically want to know a little bit about your company and your banking information. So that we can, since we're regulated by the government, we need to have that information, be able to move money for you in your name. So there's that document, and that's a pretty straightforward document that needs to be filled out. The implementation time is relatively quickly. We're very lightweight. We can have you up and going within a week to 2 weeks. It's really pretty much just getting a schedule. The implementation is pretty much getting you on the schedule and having you meet with our project consultants that guide you through the project. They help you set it up. The instance, they go through a training, and it's really a couple hours of work, and you're up and going and processing payments. That's pretty much the process for Tipalti.
You said that it's 1 to 2 weeks and a few hours. When we're working with a lot of small business companies, 1 to 2 hours is a little more than a lot of people can handle. I noticed that you guys don't have a lot of pre-built integrations. So for when a majority of the people that I work with are using Shopify or WooCommerce, and you don't have any pre-built integrations, I mean, one of the reasons that they like going with things like AvaTax is because they can give it a test run before they actually commit. Are they able to do a test run with Tipalti? And again, what does that onboarding process entail? And how do you guys also blend the data set that we already have with the new incoming data so that our transactional information is all nice and clean?
Yeah, we are, as far as you talk about the integration, we're working right now we provide you with the APIs. Now, I know not everybody has the wherewithal and knowing how to connect, but we do provide you the APIs to tie into our solution. We are right now currently building out integrations to various systems right now. I can go on the roadmap, and we have a number of systems that we're looking to build out in the future so that those integrations are there out of the box. We're prioritizing them based upon what we see the market to look like and some of our customers that we have currently. So that's kind of how that's being done right now. As far as setup, I know it's 1 to 2 weeks. It's really, I was on 2 calls yesterday. It was a 1-hour call, and we set them up and they're ready to go. The only area that would probably take a little bit of time would be the integration. And we do recommend doing some test runs prior to rolling it out. Right now, we don't do a test drive, but that's something that I can take that to my upper management and see what we can do on that. I never say no to something. I'm just saying, based on maybe this relationship that working with the Data 360, we might be able to offer the ability to do test runs. The challenge we find with test runs, the software is very easy to use. It's pretty straightforward. It's a matter of setting it up and processing a payment we're setting up bank accounts and so forth like that. So it's hard for us to kind of move money in and out of an account. It's not a shared account. Some of our competition out there offers a shared account that they're moving money in and out of. We don't. We kind of have, the account is basically where your money sits. So that's kind of one of the reasons we can't do right now. We're not offering a test with the software, but that's not to say that it can't happen. Sorry.
No. Of course. I mean, it's really hard to play around with payment systems, but it's also one of the most crucial integrations for a lot of these small businesses. So like, as I'm working with, just because I work mostly with Shopify, Recharge and Recurly are some of the major recurring payment processors, and they don't work well with Apple Pay. They don't integrate completely with PayPal. And then as you layer on all of the different applications that they have, that's where you find all the issues. So even if you guys had something like in a sandbox mode that people could play with,
yeah, we do have a sandbox, and I can open that up, and I just need to ask for it. Yes, and we do have a sandbox that we can let you work them.
Yeah, and really depending on the use case and the ability for the Data 360 team to actually make money, we can always create different scenarios that allow test drives to happen, but there are also test drives that are contractual, where customers have to make a commitment that if it works in the way that they want it to work, that they're committed to the project. We don't allow, and we won't allow Tipalti on our network to do just free for all trials. We just don't find that that's effective.
It's just I think payment systems is probably the biggest pain in
Sure.
Like with Shopify. I think when we were rolling out chatbots, I did not think that the payment systems working would be my biggest roadblock, and they were. So I understand how important it is.
Payments are, and part of it is, and like Mike was saying, it's commerce, right? So it's banking. So there are challenges that the PayPal's and the Squares and the WePays have that the Data 360s and the Tipaltis don't have, because we're more strict about who we let in the network, and we're more strict about who can effectively do things. And you also have to keep in mind we're a data company, so we're very strict on how things move back and forth, how payments move back and forth. But that's not to say that we're not open to trials and sandboxes and tests. They just have to be roadmapped and effectively planned, so that we can know that we have a customer that is committed to the process of making money online, and not just someone who's just kind of experimenting or wants an education. So we have to be just, but we're happy to always entertain that. And then I have to say, on our side, from an integration standpoint, we have probably 3 or 4 partners that can rapid prototype and rapid flow an integration. It just costs extra. So even if it's not native to Tipalti, we have partners that can put together widgets and put together add-ons that are robust and are enterprise level but low cost.
It's very robust. I'm using probably 4 or 5 different apps just to do everything that's all the capabilities here, which has been a headache. So it would be great to have everything all in one. But of course, that takes a lot of time and testing, as you guys know.
Yeah. So, there's a migration. I know Mike can speak to this too. There's all this migration from like the MailChimps and the Bills.com and the Eventbrites and kind of all the freemium, low cost tools, the PayPals, the for us, it's Excel sheet users, right? All those different things that are cheap or free to running a scalable business and a secure business. And so the thing that got us so excited about partnering with Tipalti is because we're both in what's called the mid-market, which is, hey, some of this free stuff is not as easy as it seems. It's not as great as it seems. Let's upgrade to the next tier, right? But we don't want to spend a bunch of money on enterprise level services and all this customization. We rather just do this project here with you guys. That's where it's a mid-tier opportunity, and we're not super expensive. We're also not free. So, so that's kind of the trade-off is, when you hit mid-tier integrations or you hit mid-tier packages, there is some investment in time and thought you have to put into things. But the great thing is, and what hasn't existed really in the last, past the last 5 years, is you have small and medium businesses that can actually scale without becoming major corporations and suing a lot of debt. So our goal is to make the quite serious proposition that you can be a 2, 3, 5, 10 person team and run a major company with the right systems and with the right software, with us, with our partners, with Google, with Amazon, with Tipalti, to be able to do a great job without having to hawk your house,
Yes.
uh, or take on a huge,
Well said.
or, yeah, or to take on a huge amount of venture capital that may be unnecessary, right? And we're friends with venture capitalists, especially through Data 360 Labs. Um, but you want to be effective when you use investment money, and you want to have effective systems. And too many times, companies will expand or want to grow without having really effective systems and software partners and workflow in place. So
And
that's
this is very interesting, just because you're able to, instead of having to onboard onto 4 or 5 different platforms, regardless of the pricing, it's only one, and it's,
Yeah.
we don't have to
it's
changing it next
yeah.
year, which takes even more money and more time.
Yeah, so with Data 360, you're absolutely right. We have, all the operational pieces in one system, and you don't have to deal with all the moving parts, whether it's through Google or Amazon or both. And with our AI and machine learning tools, you don't have to deal with a lot of the data junk that's out there, and the customer acquisition piece and the employee piece and managing people. And there's a lot of stuff that the platforms can do automated. And the same with Tipalti, because Tipalti is unifying a lot of things. I'm sure Mike can speak to easier,
No,
and like you said,
you should
unifying
take over my role. You should take over my role.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So what was great is culturally, Tipalti and Data 360 are so similar. We just don't cover the financial piece; we cover the operations piece. And so it's really a great partnership for us because exactly like you were saying, Jacqueline, we're totally taking away so much of the headache, right? And then the question is, are you ready to deal with your business growing at an unprecedented rate? And
Yeah.
are you ready to handle the data that's there? And are you ready to deal with large amounts of payments? And so there's also just kind of a sanity check that needs to happen too. So what Data 360 is doing is we're kind of stepping down some of that responsibility and sharing resources like Tipalti, so that you don't have to deal with all the setups as much as you would if you were to go directly to Tipalti. And you don't have to deal with all the craziness that comes with setting up e-commerce, right? And you've done it, and kudos to you, because WooCommerce and Shopify, even though they're great platforms, and Shopify is our partner, it's not always easy to set up. It's kind of very manual.
Dirty data and payments probably take up 30% of my project time.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
More, like, it depends on who it is. But yeah, so if you have a solution, that's great.
Yeah, and so that's part of the reason why we're adding on offerings to Shopify and Google Shopping, as well as the business to business side with Google Commerce and Tipalti, because that whole puzzle, right? And that's why we're called Data 360, is because we have one unified solution. So that whole puzzle of putting everything together is it's such a big headache. And so what's great is, from our team's perspective, we've all spent a lot of time integrating massive systems for big corporations, or dealing with, in my history, dealing with how Facebook came together. People don't always know that story, but Facebook, it was a series of parts that did not used to exist in one platform. And I don't know how many people are aware of that, but there were some distinctive parts, and there were some distinctive growing pains that happened. And then I was working with the team when they were building out their ad platform. And so that was all that's matured way past when we were working together 10 years ago. But it's definitely um, a really amazing experience, to have a system that just handles it and puts it together. Right, which is why Facebook is so powerful today. So, we've learned a lot about building systems and, all the way back to my AOL days. So, our goal is to kind of say, okay, now what's the next level? Right? What does it look like to do commerce for the next 20 years, right? From 2018 to 2038, right?
Mhm.
And then also, some of the future technologies with IoT and VR and some of the blockchain stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. So I think next year will be a very interesting year. But in the meantime, our goal is to help companies really get set up in this era for this next era, right? And also to streamline a lot of the stuff they've been doing, like a lot of stuff Jacqueline's been talking about.
Cool.
Well said.
And you have anything to add to that, Mike? I kind of went on my.
I think you outlined it very well. I mean, we kind of feel that we're the next level. There's a lot of, as Jacqueline said, of payment automation solutions, and I think we're the next level where we bring all these components together. To really kind of, it's an area that it's needed to be addressed for a long time, and I think we do that quite well.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, Jacqueline, do you have any other questions or thoughts?
No, sounds too good to be true. I'd love to give it a test run.
We will officially put you in our marketing campaign. Then you can tell everybody how it works.
Okay.
All right. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. For those of you who are watching the replay of this, feel free to reach out to us at support@data360.solutions. And everyone have a great day.
You too. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Jacqueline.
Bye.